CEO Wisdom Pod with Ali Khan. He's founder and CEO at Shape. We're going to discuss culture, productivity, people analytics, employee experience, everything in between. Ali, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and a bit more about Shape Global?
Charles, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. So I started Shape a few years ago. It's been about 5 years in research and development. We launched just recently. We call ourselves the Employee Experience Measurement Company. So we are helping organizations understand how their employees, their managers, and their executives across the entire business are experiencing work, how they're practicing their work, and how they are supporting each other as well. So we put numbers on a number of the kind of factors that really drive good, positive work experience, and maybe even negative as well. And through that process, we're figuring out, are people flourishing? Are they striving, or should they be? And are they struggling? And then based on that, we can give them associated guidance, advice. And all of this is done incredibly confidentially right across the board.
Why did you decide to start that business?
Yeah, I've observed over the many years that organizations are really not having the best experience when it comes to solutions such as pulse surveys. So they've got these quarterly surveys where they're running a variety of different questions, and then those questions are fed through in terms of answers up to the management team. The management team will then go and have eventually a conversation with the employees, and they'll typically tell them what the results are. Except the employees, unbelievably, in the middle of the second decade of the 21st century, don't receive a personal report. They are not trusted to interpret the results for themselves. And behavior change is really the core aspect of what everybody is looking for. They want to move their organizations from wherever they are to a better place. And there's always areas to improve. There's areas to celebrate as well, which is great. So why not give the employees, first of all, a report for themselves? Why not put them first? And then why not give managers a detailed analysis of where their team is and empower them to support their employees in their team? And then why not give the executives an entirely overarching view, but allow them to go from the highest level right down to the detail level? Success never happens at the highest level, because that's where decisions might be made, but they're acted at the lowest level. So that's what we need to try to help everybody overcome, these kind of barriers to understanding experience at work, and then developing from there onto to much more better actions that they can take confidently.
I think it would help the audience to know about your background, which is in science, life science. So basically, yeah, CIO roles. I see principal at ARC, which is quite interesting in itself. Then AXA Health, huge company, Chief Science Innovation Officer, it's a big role. Tell us about your background.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I've been working for the best part of nearly 20 years now. So in fact, just over 25 years, in fact. So good working history. I started life working in data in data marketing. I wanted a job in marketing. I saw data marketing. I took it, and that worked out really, really well. That led me to classical marketing, and I experienced everything that you would experience in terms of from mailing to television ads to radio ads to magazines and newspaper ads. So we did a lot of work learning how to make all of that really work incredibly well. And then from there, I started actually teaching myself wireless engineering. And that caught the attention of a couple of really good people. And we started developing some technology that now the world knows as Wi-Fi routers. So these little ADSL routers that we see in the houses of many people around the world, they were actually some of the pioneers that I worked with, including the big company over here in the UK called British Telecom. And then very quickly after that, I started learning more about the telecoms environment. And I realized very quickly that it was going to be data that was going to overtake voice. And so around the mid-2000s, I started shifting more of my focus onto data-led solutions. And then from there, I realized I jumped again because I realized that applications were the real winners here. So what do people do with that data once they receive information back? And medical devices was one really good way of thinking about that. And so that got me connected into understanding how do you reverse chronic and infectious diseases. So get out of, for example, pre-diabetes and certainly out of type 2 diabetes. Is it even possible? What happens at the cellular level? And how do we help others make more use and understanding of the data of what their blood level is telling them about a certain disease state? And that then got the attention of a whole bunch of people that wanted to build a much better well-being methodology. And if we can stop people getting ill in the first place, and this is where data comes into play, this is where experiences come into play, then I think we can achieve a lot as a society, as a community. And workplaces are a fantastic place to make that happen. Workplaces allow us to increase our stress levels, decrease our stress levels, depending on who we're working with, what we're experiencing. So we started getting really keen to understand what were those factors that drove that work experience. And it turned out to be a number of factors that we have now packaged into the Shape product overall.
What do you say to someone like me that let go most of its team early this year and is only hiring smart folks that can manage an army of bots, aka someone that's over leveraging AI and automation in its business and kind of lost faith in the human ability to produce profits and or the win-win side of things of employment? I believe it's very much win-lose. What do you say to someone like that?
I say you're paving the way. Why not, right? It's for many people, it's going to be something that's going to dissuade them. They get worried about things, but true innovation comes from embracing change, and embracing it means understanding it better. It means starting to realize that ChatGPT, for example, cannot really replace, the truly creative part of every aspect of what a human being can do. It can amplify it, it can augment it, it can complement it, but it can't truly replace that. So if you're building technology, Charles, that's going to help people in themselves to perform better, what could be better than that? Because that's only going to free people up to actually raise the game even more. Now, for that to happen, there needs to be an improvement in the provision of skills that are being taught and so forth. Many of the things need to come into play. But when you're driving things forward, I'm sure that your trial and error, and you've got a hit rate, and you've got a... So all of that learning typically is not done in large organizations. They don't have the patience for it. They rule themselves out. It's people like you, Charles, who makes that happen. So I say, all the power to you. Go ahead.
It's just that GPT and AI, I do think it's going to make better creators than us pretty soon. I estimate in less than a year, even the best of us, because it can scale creativity, so it can suggest many experiments. And then what will be the roles of us humans in there? It's to test their experiment, because an AI doesn't have access to this reality. Before they do understand this reality, if there is something to be understood, because us humans, we think we understand reality. In reality, I think we're in a bubble, there's multiple things we don't understand. But before AI reaches the current comprehension of the human brain, I think we're going to be the executors or AI overlords, aka they're going to tell us like potentially what to do. and legally and probably technically they won't be able to implement on that. There will be a day in which they will be able to deploy these experiments, these creative experiments, and get data off it and then feed off that and just go on and move very quickly. I don't think we're that far away from that. So not sure if I would agree with the creativity thing. We think of ourselves as creating human beings, even myself, you know, I'm a content writer. I write different ideas than most humans, but I created my chatbot yesterday, my Charles GPT. I asked it question and it gives Charles-like advice, you know, which is better than advice than what you see out there. It's more niche, it's more intelligent, but still I was like, yeah, it's not that smart, you know, it's not that creative. The offer that you, the advice that you offer, it's mostly recycled stuff. And I'm not conscious of it down or memory lane, but I mean, it's all stuff that I recycled from books that I read and so forth. So not sure about the creativity side of things. What do you think about that?
Do you think that there is value in what you're doing and somebody will appreciate that value?
Yes, 100%. Just that they're like, I'm at some level and I'm kind of giving them my hand. There is some folks that have higher advice than I, that they're niching down in one thing, focusing all their energy in that. Me, I'm more of a generalist. I also think that the future of humans and AGIs and AIs will be generalists managing multiple specialized AGIs. We'll still have the power until we don't, which will be interesting. But yeah, that, and is that your definition of creativity once you add value to someone?
I think it's the core of everything that goes on, right, in society, in humanity. Yeah. If there's value in it, then fantastic. I think it should be something that we should do fearlessly, because what that does is it forces actually and encourages people to go find value that they can drive in a different way. And whilst the digital domain can do a lot more in the world that we've moved into in the last 20 years, beyond that, there is something else. Beyond that, there's something else. Just like there was 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. So it's another shift that we're making happen here. And change is fear. Change evokes fear. People are scared. It's a natural reaction to what happens even in the workplace environments. When you have change in leadership, we don't really know. And when we have certain other aspects come into play in our personal lives and we're not sure, that will cause anxiety. Anxiety being, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I do know I'm not sure about it. That causes an imbalance. And that's what's happening. We're in this phase of imbalance at the moment, and we don't really know the answers. So that's what's causing these reactions. But from my perspective, Charles, where I see it, I celebrate what you're doing. I'll try to understand more of it as I go along. We'll try to leverage that, but then we'll try to go one step further, because the one thing about the human brain, might not be able to do it as fast as the menial tasks, but we can actually find other ways to connect things. When you shock your body, for example, with a fast, for a prolonged fast, neuroplasticity kicks in. It forces the body to rethink, and it literally creates new neural pathways that were either cut off before or they needed to be recreated. It forces us. So we know how this happens to the human race at the cellular level. Now we've got to bring it to the fore and act it at the practical level.
I didn't know about neuroplasticity and when fasting, but I suspect it does. I certainly know about autophagy, which does generate human growth hormone, amongst other things. And human growth hormone is known, yes, to increase neuroplasticity in some sense. So quite interesting. I'm due for a fast, by the way. The last one I did was, is it a week long? I think it was. Am I that crazy? Yes, I am.
What kind of fast did you do? Did you do a certain
water
style?
Fast. Yeah.
Water fast. Okay. For how long did you do that for?
7 days. Yeah.
No, total full 7 days.
Yeah. Yes. And I eat once a day. So
Okay. Okay. So
I'm
you
over
ate
that
once a day.
stage. But yeah, I have a trick for that. I use this bone broth,
Okay.
which was full of minerals and electrolytes and so forth. And obviously I didn't give up my best friend. Coffee is his name. Um, but yeah, that was pretty wild. And that I ate tons when I finished it, so I messed it up. That's my usual self, by the way. I need to work on these psyche issues. I tend to sabotage myself after like these great lengths of effort. Same when I go on a 10-day meditation retreat, for example. After I'm done, I don't take the time to integrate and so forth. So I need to work on these things. But that was my birthday gift, by the way. My birthday was coming, and I was like, yeah, let's give me the best of gifts, and let's give me health. And I remember that because I listened to a podcast a week ago in which I was in the fast, on day 4, day 5 of the fast or something like that. I have more questions for you though, because you talk about productivity. Productivity is cool. Productivity is hard to calculate and predict. But the question again that I have, and sorry for that obsession, but are humans made to be productive? Aren't we more on the creative side of things? Whatever creativity means, it's hard to define it. And as humans, we have that problem, of defining things because we're always pushing the boundaries of knowledge, and it's sometimes quite hard and might even be by definition to define what words means. And words have different meanings for each of us. Communication is this interesting thing, and it's very much related to neurons and neuroplasticity. That being said, productivity, definition, achieving your goals. If in business, it's generating cash, wouldn't I be better to not even make AIs accountable, but because they are by definition productive, right? They're kind of modern slaves, to be honest, and they will get a consciousness and maybe eventually revolt, but is like, do this, and the bot, it exactly does what you said, and it can do it at scale. Is it fair to impose that on another human being to kind of subjugate them to your will? Isn't the future like everyone entrepreneurial? What do you have to say about that?
It's interesting that you've gone from the angle of the oppression type of approach, right? That we want the best out of you, therefore we will grab and take it. Look, productivity, and it does, it evokes, the word productivity evokes those kind of feelings and emotional kind of reactions, and it's understandable because unfortunately there are certain people out there in the world who've done a great job of creating that type of fear. But what is productivity? Let's define it. It's producing, and in the context of a widget being manufactured at the end of a production line, that's easy. We understand how to count how many over a certain period of time, which equals what the expectation was. It met, was it not? So that's as simple as we can make it there. Human beings were not the same. We have varying different factors that impact our ability to produce as much as we can for whatever type of job we do. So if we're keeping a manufacturing line going, that's easy enough in a sense to define because it's about were enough widgets coming off the end of the line? Did you do your job? And you can cascade back into what are the factors that help you do that job more effectively. But when we've got these creative type of tasks, even in your example, who's really to measure the effectiveness of that if it's going to be creativity? Well, ultimately, it's going to be, did it sell? Did many people pay for it on time and so forth? Maybe that's one way of measuring. So it comes back down to the measure that you prefer, that's going to help you understand better, are we getting sufficient value for the spend that we're making there? And that's where you get into factors like return on investment and so forth. I guess in human terms, what we've got, through Shape has been this really I think, effective, but very fair and very human way of looking at productivity. So we don't look at it as being an output, we look at it as an input. So are the conditions and the behaviors that a person is experiencing in the best possible place for them to give their very, very best? That's about as simple as I can make it. To me, that's productivity. That's what it is within Shape. And so we measure the underlying factors that will help or hinder a person's experience to be able to produce the best they possibly can. And that means things like, are they in the best culture? Are they experiencing a management style that's helping them to be as productive as they can be? What about the work environment? Everything from the temperature and the lighting, all the way through to the relationships they have with the employees around them. What about their physical health? Because that can hinder if it's not in the best possible place. Psychological health too, commitment, satisfaction. Yeah. So all of these factors are input measures. So we measure those really effectively, backed by evidence-based science. If we can understand that, we have a really good idea. Is that person optimized around them, not just to them, but around them to be able to produce? Does that help?
It does. My first nootropics company, we were actually prospecting offices so that the employers would give or brain enhancement supplement to their workers to be more productive. It never caught on, just because we were targeting like HR folks or chief of staff, and they didn't see the interest. And also there was an ethical concern, like, can you impose that on your people? I mean, it's not imposed, it's just like having Red Bull in the fridge and coffee machines. But then that brings back the question, in the win-lose relationship between employees and employers. Most of the big companies have already established like huge values. And for example, let's take McKinsey, right? As a firm, they have 50 years of brands behind them. And the reason their employees have ROI is not necessarily because they're competent. It's just because they need to be there. They need to offer the service, and the marketing and the sales are scaling. They just need someone to offer that. And so they're winning. Their employees are also winning from these huge salaries. But yeah, anyway, where I'm getting at is that for a startup, for example, that don't have the brand and the sales and the traction, they can't afford to have someone on the payroll at 100K a year. So it's still like one trying to take advantage of the other, I feel. I've never gone with that mindset of, winning from someone. I've always been abundant, but I'm just like not sure about the future that there is of humans working for other humans. Do you feel that the future would be like only entrepreneurial folks, only co-founders in a business? And let's say that I onboard you in my business, zero salary, but a machine calculates your inputs and gives you a percentage of the rev share. And after some time, it even gives you shares of my business. What do you think about that future model?
I hope not. Look, I guess we're going to try different kind of methodologies. And if you think that ultimately it's about driving efficiency and effectiveness through bots, you've got to ask yourself the question: what about the people? What are you doing for them? And if you're doing all of this with bots only to circle back, to give a benefit back to the people, but then the people haven't contributed to that, then there's an imbalance over there as well. So I think, my philosophy in life is everything has been made for human beings, right? You can call it a spiritual perspective, or you can call it a very practical one. But you get in your car, made by people. You're going somewhere, you're seeing signs made for people. You're going to a destination, probably to meet other people. It's all about the people, end to end. So if you're doing this with bots, that's all fine. But what about the people? You have to answer that question as well. You have that responsibility. So do entrepreneurs do this type of thinking? Yes, I think they do. Not all of them, I'm sure. But if we ask ourselves the ethical questions within that framework, that structure, I think we'll find better answers for everybody.
Yeah, well, people are still obviously there in that model, just that they're entrepreneurial, right? And they're not zombies relying on a milkshake that the employer is making and being injected intravenously by that and surviving off that. That's how most humans operate with work nowadays, like punch in, punch out, right? And ironically, most humans are also unhappy. They don't even do what they love, and 50% of what their life is work. So I would encourage folks to just revisit that mentality. And the only thing there is that I do think that entrepreneurship is very hard. And for those that that either genetically or experience-wise aren't wired for that, maybe, yes, the government could provide assistance here and there. I do think as well that in some time, yeah, UBI is definitely going to be a thing, especially when AGI is there. And these folks will be able to live off the fruits of our labor. And we won't really mind because there will be like hyperabundance. Humans were very centric. I mean, we haven't found life out there yet. So maybe it could be that by definition, yes, we're special. But also let's not forget, like the creatures on this planet, the bacteria and all of that, we're like all one in there. And yeah, we're about to discover stuff that will kind of blow our minds. So yeah, bots, I think, yeah, on the short term, and especially in this 10 years window, there will be like there will be very helpful for humans until they gain some rights and so forth. So, but yeah, thank you for this convo, Ali. Very instructive. Where can people find out more about you?
Oh, really easily. I've got my LinkedIn profile. So if you look for Ali Khan Shape, and if you look for shape.report, you'll find